On the 29th of May 1660, Charles II returned to England to become king. It was his 30th birthday, a rather unique way of spending your birthday. England had been without a monarch for 11 years after his father Charles I was executed on the 30th of January 1649. At this time, even though England and Scotland had the same monarch, they were not joint countries, and Charles II had actually been recognised as King of Scotland in 1650, but it wasn't until 1660 that he came back as King of England, known as the Restoration King or a Restoration Monarch. Charles, unlike his father and grandfather before him, recognised that to rule with no thought for what people were saying and public feeling was not going to do him any good. His father and grandfather, so Charles I and James I, had totally and utterly believed in the king's right to rule, the divine right to rule. Their word was God's word, and to disagree with that meant you were disagreeing with God. Charles II had a bit more of a pragmatic approach, and this, along with the disgust of the regicide that had happened in 1649, really gave the monarchy quite a good grounding. People just didn't have the stomach for more war. Two big events in London history, at least, that you will have heard of that occurred in the reign of Charles II. 1665 was the Great Plague, which would have affected all the country, but London, being such a close-knit population, literally people living on top of each other, that it spread rapidly. And then in 1666, September 1666, the Great Fire of London. I do a walking tour of London and the Great Fire, so it's a real passion of mine. Charles would be on the throne for just under 25 years, dying at the age of 54 in February 1685. He was succeeded by his brother James II, and you'll be hearing more about James II in relevant weeks. He is the king whose conversion to Catholicism sparked the unrest which would become lead to the Glorious Revolution, which brought joint monarchs William and Mary to the throne. Charles was succeeded by his brother because, despite the fact that he had scores of illegitimate children, his wife Catherine of Braganza had unfortunately only given birth to stillborn babies, and so he had no legitimate heirs.